Okay, hey everybody. I'm so glad you guys are joining me live. This is my first live, so hopefully I'll be able to bake and check out what you guys are saying at the same time. Oh, hi Cheryl Day. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Okay, so today we're going to be making these really amazing cookies, but even cooler than cookies, we are going to be talking about baking with oats. So these are like traditional rolled oats, the kind that, you'd make your oatmeal with, but they are an excellent flour substitution. And since a lot of us are having a hard time finding flour, I thought it would be fun to show you guys a pretty quick and easy recipe where you can use oats instead of part of the flour. We're still going to use some flour, but let's see. Oh, hi, Christian. Hi, Lucy. Hi, Jasmine. Thanks for joining, everyone. So the first thing we're going to do, because we are actually, I would like to think we're not making oatmeal cookies, because oatmeal cookies, they sound kind of like a little too like something my dad would want to eat. So we're going to actually take our rolled oats and put them in the food processor, and we are going to like blend the life out of them until we can get them as powdery as possible. And even though we're using them in cookies, you can substitute oat flour in pretty much any baking recipe, except for your yeasted breads. It definitely won't work there because there is no gluten in rolled oats. And when you're substituting oats in your other baking recipes, if you substitute about 25% of the flour, you're on the safe side. But obviously these are like trying times where we all have, limited access to ingredients. So I would say now is the perfect time, up the ante, swap out like half of the oat flour, or you could even use all oat flour. I'll tell you one difference is that you're not going to get as much rise out of your baked goods, and also because there's no gluten in oats, which is a good thing, but you're not going to get that nice chewy texture that you would normally get. So let's get started. Just trying to see everyone who's joined. Thanks for joining, guys. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to make our oat flour. You can buy oat flour, and if you buy oat flour, it's pretty cool because it comes with some stuff that just makes it a little bit easier to work with, and because they have higher grade food mills, you can get a much finer texture in the oat flour, but making it yourself is perfectly fine. It's perfectly easy, and the more powerful food processor you have, the finer your oat flour is going to be. Oh, and I'm going to put on an apron because I have so many aprons that I don't get to wear. I'm going to like bistro it. I'm just gonna do like half an apron. It's like very bright and colorful, which I think we all need as much brightness and colorfulness as we can get out of our kitchens and out of life these days. So, okay, we are going to blend these rolled oats. One more thing, do not use instant oatmeal, because instant oatmeal has already been manipulated so much. It doesn't really work for making your own oat flour. And also steel cut oats, which are, I think, like the best for oatmeal, but they are also not really gonna work when it comes to making your oat flour. Okay, this is loud, but blasting this on high until we get like a really nice fine texture. I'll take this one and see who's here and what you guys are saying. Oh good, you guys like the colorful apron. Okay, let's check it. Okay, it's not like super powdery. I could probably blend this for another 15 or 20 seconds. Like I mentioned, if you buy commercial oat flour, you're going to be able to get like a much finer texture, but it's really nice to be able to make your own oat flour. And like I said, if you have like limited quantities of flour, it's nice to be able to substitute part of the flour in your recipes with oat flour, and that way you're extending whatever flour you do have, and you are also adding a lot of fiber, protein, and other just really good wholesome nutrients from the oats. So I'm just gonna blend this a little bit longer. Any questions so far? I love that a lot of like my friends and family are here. That's really nice because I haven't seen you guys in so long. So thank you for coming and baking with me. I wish I could like share these with you guys, but I guess I'll put some in the freezer for you for the next time I see you guys. Okay. So I could keep going with this for even another 15 or 20 seconds or so, but because it's so loud, I'm gonna stop now. And I'm gonna show you guys. Okay, so as you can see, like some of it got like pretty powdery and some of it is still a little bit like more textured, and that's okay. Like texture is a beautiful, delicious, wonderful thing. So that's okay. So now what we're gonna do, let me get rid of this food processor. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna mix our dry ingredients. So I'm gonna do 1 cup of the oat flour, and I had actually kind of like milled this a little bit earlier, and so I got this like a little bit more fine in texture, but you can see it's still got some nice graininess to it. Oh, got it all over me. And then I'm gonna add actually 1 cup of flour. So I'm doing equal parts oat flour and regular flour. You can do wheat flour. Like I mentioned, you can actually just like go crazy and do all oat flour because that's where we are right now. Things are crazy in the world. We can make like crazy cookies and crazy baked things and just see what happens. I'm going to add a teaspoon of this really awesome cinnamon. It's called Royal Cinnamon, and it's like a single origin spice from the Vietnam region, and it tastes like Red Hots, which is really cool. So it has this natural sweetness to it, which is nice because that means that, you know, we can add less of the granulated and brown sugar. And the flavor is really unique and special. And it's from my podcast co-host company, Burlap and Barrel, and he was really nice to give me a bottle. So cinnamon, of course, is gonna add a lot of like really nice flavor to stand up to the oats. I'm gonna add a little salt. I'm only gonna add like a dash. I would normally add half a teaspoon, but I'm using salted butter, which is like a big faux pas in baking, but it's all I could find at the store right now. So if you're using salted butter, oh, hi, Amy Curry, just taking a minute to say hi to everyone. If you're using salted butter, just make sure you reduce the salt that you add to your recipe. I'm also gonna add some baking soda and baking powder. I thought about like playing music in the background during this. I was gonna have this whole Lean on Me, Lovely Day playlist in tribute, but I wasn't sure if you guys would be able to hear me, and I was like, I am not a DJ. My friends who know me know this about me. All right, so I have my dry ingredients in the bowl. I'm just gonna take a whisk. You could also use a fork and just combine them. And of course I forgot something. I forgot cornstarch. So I'm gonna do a tablespoon of cornstarch. And cornstarch is nice because it thickens the batter even more, and it just makes the texture for cookies like really nice. It can be a really nice addition. So I always like to do my dry ingredients first, whether I'm making cookies or I'm making a cake, and that way I can just set it aside and keep moving, and then when I'm ready for it, it's all ready to go. Any questions so far now that I'm leaning in and looking at the comments and stuff? We'll have more time for questions once we get to a certain step in the process, so that's okay. So next we are going to cream our butter and sugar. So I have a stick and a half of softened butter. And the nice thing about softened butter is it will combine a lot more easily with the sugar. When you are beating it, it will get creamy more easily. But you don't want your butter to be melted because then that will end up messing up the structure of the cookies. So if you didn't set your butter out ahead of time, zap it in the microwave for like 10 seconds or 20 seconds. I have noticed different brands of butter need different amounts of time in the microwave, which is really weird, but. So I would normally do this, oh, I have flour all over me. I should have done the apron. I would normally do this in my stand mixer, but since I wanted you guys to be able to see, I'm gonna use a hand mixer. So if if stuff starts flying, oh well. So I'm also gonna add some brown sugar and some granulated sugar, which, let's see. Ah, here it is. And I'm just gonna cream this together. Seeing if it's making too much of a mess. Okay, while this is creaming, flour on your shirt is very relatable. Okay, that's nice. Thank you. Flour on your shirt. I guess that's what happens when you wear black. But you know, New Yorkers, we wear a lot of black, I guess, even during times of quarantine when we are stuck inside. So if you were using a stand mixer, now would be a great time to wipe down the sides of your bowl. Make sure everything is getting combined nice and easily. Gonna give this another whack. What are we making? Great question. So we are baking with oats. So we are using oats because flour is really limited right now, and it's an easy way to just extend the life of whatever flour you have on your shelf. Substitute your recipe, pretty much any baking recipe, with a quarter oat flour instead of regular flour, and we actually processed the oats ourselves in the food processor. Okay, this is finally coming together, and I guess the short answer would be we're making cookies. So adding an egg. I'm gonna also add some vanilla. I have this really nice Madagascar bourbon vanilla. Vanilla, I like to think of vanilla in baking, it's kind of like salt in cooking. Vanilla just brings out the flavors that are already there. So you don't need to get like a very vanilla-y flavor in your baking from vanilla for it to make sense for you to use it. You just want it to bring out the flavors that are already there. And that's why vanilla in chocolate recipes works so well. It's not that you're tasting vanilla, it just lets you taste the chocolate better, which is really fun. Okay, gonna whisk the egg and vanilla extract into our creamed butter and sugar. That's some good vanilla. I love that brand. I have to agree, it is some really good vanilla. Where you get like your spices and your vanilla from, it really matters. You want to make sure you're, in an ideal world, you would be using brands that you know are not adding strange fillers to whatever spices or extracts that you're using. So we've creamed our butter and sugar. We've made our oat flour from rolled oats, which, as I mentioned, is a great substitute in pretty much any baking, except bread. Bread's a little tricky. You can use up to 25% of whatever the recipe calls for with flour, with oat flour. So now I'm just gonna add our dry ingredients a little bit at a time because I'm using a hand mixer and I don't want more flour to fly everywhere because I am already wearing flour. And the flowers I want to be wearing are these flowers. And right now I'm mixing on low because by the time you add your dry ingredients, you don't want to overmix, whether it's cakes or cookies, you don't want to overmix at that point. Let's see, what else are people saying? Oh, I guess you guys are having a convo that looks funny. I can't wait to like go back and read what's happening. I also want to take a moment to shout out my little sister who is an ICU nurse in Louisiana, Dawn. I'm kind of doing this class thinking of her and all of our amazing healthcare workers that are putting their safety and health on the line as well as their families so that we can be safe. And what we need to do, I think, to thank them is just stay home so that we can really not overwhelm our system more than it already is. If you have someone that you know that's out working right now to take care of all of us and you want to give them a shout out in the comments, can you guys do that right now? That would be really nice. Okay, gonna add this last bit of flour. Let's see, someone asked about your apron. I'm not sure where it came from. It was a gift from my mother who loves to buy me aprons. So the longer we're doing this whole like stay at home quarantine bake life, the more aprons you guys are gonna see. Hi Allie, thanks for joining. Allie Rosen, I'm actually gonna be live with her tomorrow. She's doing fundraising with Roar and we're raising money for restaurants. So you can check us out tomorrow live, tomorrow morning. Okay, and we are pretty much done. I wanted like this first live to be really doable. I was like, I'll save something just like crazy and insane for next week. So you guys get ready. We're gonna like do something that is like, what the heck? Okay, so our delicious part oat flour cookie dough is pretty much together. And now for the fun part, we're gonna add a bunch of mix-ins. So I'm playing the whole clean out my pantry game. I think just like everyone else, like anything we can do to spice things up without going to the store, we're doing right now. So I found white chocolate chips. White chocolate, I think, gets a bad rap, like people don't like it. But white chocolate, I think, in like the right situation is wonderful. And I think it'll bring out like a really nice flavor and sweetness to these oatmeal cookies because they're already like healthy. Hello, we used oat flour. We milled our own oat flour. So I think we can do some white chocolate in them. I also found these craisins, like dried cranberries. Oh, hi Patty, Baked Ideas. Oh my gosh, thanks for joining. She's actually like the cookie queen. She even makes her own cookie cutters and she does the most phenomenal thing. So guys, definitely check her out. Oh, hey Matt, we've got the editor of Taste Magazine here. He's also awesome. If you haven't checked out Taste Magazine, go check them out. So I'm gonna add these dried cranberries to this. And listen, I do not like raisins, but I think dried cranberries are not raisins at all, even though they are kind of raisin-like. They just give like such a nicer flavor. And the cranberries and white chocolate with these toasted pecans that I had. Okay, I have like a 20-pound bag of pecans here, but if you have macadamia nuts, I think that would be delightful in this recipe. If you have pistachios, that would be really fun. Like so many nuts would work in this recipe. And just make sure you toast them first because toasting nuts really brings out the flavor. It brings out that nice like umami flavor that I think people is reserved for cooking, but works really well in baking also. Nuts, chocolate, and craisins, like what more can you ask for? And of course, you could do milk chocolate, you could do dark chocolate. If I weren't trying to get rid of these chocolate chips, you can take up a bar and chop it up. I did about a half a cup of nuts because I'm really stingy with my nuts. And I eat so many nuts and bake with so many nuts. I did about 3/4 cup of craisins because I might not use these for anything else ever. And I did about 3/4 of a cup of the white chocolate chips, and that's probably because that's all that was in the bag. Don't know about nuts. We'll toast them moving forward. Yes, toast your nuts, you guys. Definitely. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, get a parchment or silplat lined baking sheet, and we're going to go ahead, make these into balls, and we're actually gonna refrigerate them before we bake them. So the thing about, why are we refrigerating cookie dough? Why can't we just put it in the oven? We can put it in the oven, but you might have pancake cookies. Like your cookies might just go like this because butter melts really quickly if it's already at room temperature. And by putting it in the fridge, we're giving the butter a chance to solidify so that by the time it goes in the oven, it won't just all melt instantly. It's the same thing with pie crust. It's that same concept of you want your butter to have more time to solidify and not just melt instantly. I'm trying to keep up with these comments. Let's see. Toast in the oven or on the stove? I toast my nuts in the oven. Depending on the nut and the size of the nut is going to determine about how long you should toast them for. But if I've got like pecan halves, I'm gonna probably toast them at 350 for anywhere from like 7 to 10 minutes. It also matters if your nuts are frozen. Does anyone else freeze nuts? I freeze nuts because the idea of like nuts going bad sometimes is too much. I'm like, these nuts to me are just so valuable, not to mention like costly and expensive and something I wouldn't want to waste. So if they're frozen, of course, when you bake them, you're gonna need a little bit more time in the oven. But when it comes to baking nuts, I say, or toasting nuts, go with your nose. And also check on them frequently, especially at the end, because nuts also, they burn really easily towards the end. And you don't want, again, you don't want to like end up burning all of your nuts. And when you toast them in the oven, put them in a single layer so that way they can all toast pretty evenly. So right now I'm just rolling the cookie dough into balls. I see a few more people have joined. Oh, hey, there's like a lot of USC Trojans in the house. Thanks, guys. Give me a fight on if you're a USC person. My favorite way to cook with my nose. Yes, that is, listen, your nose is gonna be better than any timer. When you learn to cook with your senses, and I'm using cook and bake interchangeably, when you learn to use your senses, you're really learning how to cook because everyone's oven is different. Everyone's, even like what kind of baking sheet you use is going to determine how long it needs to bake for, because some insulate heat better, some are like terrible insulators of heat, and in which case sometimes you just need to upgrade your baking pans. Like if you've got really dark cake pans, get rid of those things. You can buy like good quality cake pans for $11 or $12. Nordic Ware, they have great cake pans. Fat Daddy-O, I think I got some cake pans for like $12, and they're nice and they're tall, and my cake layers have like forever been changed. So as I'm looking at, your kitchen looks so organized, teach me. Okay, that's funny, but because I ended up with like so much so many really cool kitchen products and so many like types of flour that I normally have in my kitchen and olive oils. I went and got a kitchen organizer from, I don't know, I think the Container Store or something, and it has like saved my sanity. So I just rolled them into balls. If you've got a scoop, that's perfect because then your cookies will all be perfectly even and the same size. And when it comes to cookies, consistency is what's going to get you the best cookie. So if your cookies can all be the same size and spaced apart, like the same amount of space on the baking sheet, that means when the heat is circulating around the cookies in the oven, it's all kind of going at the same pace and your cookies are going to bake evenly. And another trick about baking cookies, if you want to bake 2 pans at a time, instead of baking in the middle rack of your oven, bake in the top third and bottom third, and halfway through, switch them. And then that way you can bake them twice as fast. Let's see, Nordic ware pans are so good. Yes, they are, I agree. Listen, I like bang for my buck. Actually, the baking pan I'm using right now is Nordic ware. I've got a lot of different pans, but what I want is one that's like affordable, yet something that I know is gonna give me consistent results, because if you guys take the time to like bake something and your pan is the thing that prevents you from having a really good result, that kind of sucks. Okay, so I'm gonna put these in the fridge and let these get chilled before we stick them in the oven. And then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna answer a few questions. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time to ask them. Let's see. Okay, let's talk. Okay, how do you know the science behind the cooking? Okay, so baking is really scientific. And honestly, I taught myself a lot of baking. I grew up baking, but a lot of it, like a lot of the recipes I make nowadays, like French recipes and stuff, my grandmother wasn't baking those. We weren't baking that down in Louisiana. So I just have read a lot of books and a lot of trial and error. And sometimes when I get a bad result, I'll go back and I'll research why that happened. I saw another comment about parchment paper versus Silplat. Okay, great question. So what we're doing like these days when it comes to a baking sheet, what you do is you want to make sure there's something between the cookies and the pan. So I used parchment paper. I have used Silplat before also. So Silplat, for you guys that don't know, it's like a silicone baking mat that's reusable, which is awesome because it's a lot more sustainable because you can use it over and over again, which is really great. I just don't happen to own a Silplat at the moment, but I want one. So hopefully I will get one soon. Let's see, my oven is the thing that prevents me from getting good results. Sometimes I think it says something is coming from the bottom. Look, if your oven is like not a good oven, you got to get a new oven. That happened to me at my last Harlem studio apartment. My oven would cut off in the middle of while I was baking something, and one time it did that. I think I was like baking a cake for a friend. I sent a text to my landlord and I sent him the cost of ingredients for everything that went into that cake. And then he got me a new oven. So if you have like strange oven stuff, I would say if you can, get a new one. Another great alternative, if you don't have access to like a new like oven in your wall, get a toaster oven. They work brilliantly. You can get a toaster oven, like a good quality one, for maybe $50. So get a toaster oven if you need a new oven. Okay, so in like the normal circumstances, I would let that rest in the oven for maybe an hour, again, because we don't want pancake cookies Or, I mean, if you have pancake cookies, if you can't wait and you just need to bake them, I have done that before. That is me sometimes. Or I'll bake a batch and then let a batch sit in the fridge. They will still be delicious. They will just be a little bit flatter. But I have actually already baked up some for you guys to show you what they look like coming out of the oven. So let's use like the magic of Instagram and like the magic of baking and pull some out of the oven right now. Oh, and I saw Rachel from the feed. Hey Rachel, thanks for tuning in. Check out her page as well. She does like some awesome cooking, and her food is like always seasoned so well. She uses so many spices. So check out Rachel's page. Okay, we are pretending like I am pulling these out of the oven. We are also pretending like you guys can smell them and like I can smell them. I'm still working on my smell and like my recovery, but I am getting like a whiff. I can get a whiff of like the cinnamon and the nuts and even the oats. And you know, that's like the thing about oats and using oat flour as a substitute. Like you get this natural nutty flavor that is just so delicious that I think it's worth making that substitute. But again, just start with maybe 25% of your regular flour and know that it's not going to rise as much as it normally would. So I think I'm gonna make like a banana oat loaf next. So stay tuned to my Instagram. That'll be coming later in the week. And I will add the recipe for these cookies in the comments. And I will also post this video a little bit later, maybe later this evening or tomorrow morning, depending on how quickly I can figure out how to download it. Hi, Narratography. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have an awesome rest of the day. And thank the healthcare workers and other essential workers in your life today. And again, I'm just gonna like spend the rest of the day eating these cookies and thinking about my little sister. She's my baby sister, so I worry about her, of course. But she told me, you know, that she's not scared, which is just really admirable. So thank you to everyone for all that you do. And I hope that you guys get to baking today, and I'm gonna drop the recipe soon. So thank you for tuning in to my first Instagram live. And if you guys enjoyed this, then I'm gonna keep doing them. Okay, bye.